Introducing Texas Pecan Gourmet Coffee from Werx. Start your mornings the right way with a handcrafted blend that captures the heart of Texas with every sip. This medium roast delights with tasting notes of rich pecan and smooth cocoa. Our coffee provides a comforting experience perfect for any time of the day. This small batch slow roasted coffee is a testament to quality and Texan craftsmanship. Order yours today and savor the authentic taste of Texas. Visit monkeyworksus.com.
All right, hey, welcome, folks. It's going to be your SITREP. It's 225, and we are coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And, man, we are going to be talking about a lot of different things. Everything from what's going on in Guantanamo Bay. A lot of flights going in and out of there. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about, look at what's happening with the FBI. We now have Kash Patel in, and an assistant director, which is Dan Bongino, I think is fantastic. So we've got two great guys running the FBI right now. So maybe we are Gestapo No More. These two are very, very patriotic Americans that believe in our country, believe in the good fight. And so let's see what happens here. The jury's still out on whether or not these Epstein and JFK files, et cetera, will be released. They seem to be dragging their feet a little bit. So we'll talk about that, what's going on with Pam Bondi. And then, again, we're going to look at Ukraine. We've got all kinds of different stuff happening. I will tell you, if you think the deep state has just gone away, they have not. They are just circling the wagons in true fashion. I do think the reason they power loaded the United States with as many people as they did is because it is going to tie the hands of Trump and his administration trying to get to the deep state during his 4-year term. So it's just like they did in the first one. Basically, best defense is a good offense, right? And so they've got us all wrapped up trying to get these bad people out of our country. And so, but let's, that was probably plan B. My initial blush is that they didn't plan on losing this last election, but it didn't quite go their way. And so now, they go to plan B. They go, all right, we either have accomplished our goal in terms of overrunning the United States with these people coming into our country that don't belong here, or B, we've got a backup plan for the Trump regime, as they would call it. Not us, though, right? We are all in. So let's jump on over here to the menu. Let's take a look at the skies. What's going on with the Mill aircraft currently up? We're sitting at like 304, which is a little elevated given the fact I've already pulled about 150 trainers out of the sky. So as we look at this, I will tell you there was a new balloon here for some reason. It jumped out of my watch list, but you can see there is one that watching almost the entire southeastern seaboard. You've got it right here in the heart of the U.S. In fact, not just one, but two. The rest of them are hidden. They're not showing right now, but I've tracked about 50 plus Mill Intel balloons at any given point around the world. So there is one parked right off the coast of Sydney. They probably don't even know it because it's about 80,000 feet up. We watched it go there, we watched it park, and then we watched it disappear. So, okay. Now, what do the numbers tell us here? We're sitting at 40 H-60 Blackhawks, but this in the Panhandle over into Louisiana, I think, is mostly training. The rest of this, not so much. So this could be all kinds of different things. But again, H-60 Blackhawks. We look at the air refuelers because that does always tell a story, right? It tells you that we got a lot of fighter activity up. 31 KC-135s. Let me go down a little bit and see where we are on the 6.7-200s. Add another 10 to that. 36 here, 4 of them across the drink. So it is pretty active from a fighter perspective. All right. Now, let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump into the Intel community. I want to show you something very interesting in terms of looking where the flights have been heading over the last 5 days in terms of Intel. Now, we'll start off over here in South Korea. Super busy. Obviously, we have eyes on what's going on there. Now, keep in mind, too, that this, when you start talking about LaSalle Aviation, they can be hired by anybody. Doesn't mean it is a U.S. asset. So, for example, you see all of this flying, right? Sweden could have hired them, Finland could have hired them, Latvia, Lithuania, anybody in NATO could be hiring these guys. It doesn't necessarily mean they're running routes for the United States. High probability they are, but I just want to point that fact out, especially when we get into the tail end of this SITREP, because we're going to talk about a lot of things happening with respect to Ukraine and how NATO seems to be positioning itself almost in a panic, okay? But look at the layers. This is 5 days worth of flights surrounding Kaliningrad all the way up to Lithuania, Latvia. When I show you the B-52 flights, by the way, you'll see a similar trend there in the location this has gone. Again, off of Constanta, Moldova, general area, down off the toe of Italy, and then what you expect to see over Israel. Now, we're not going to get into too much on the Israel piece today. Maybe some things will change by the time we get to Thursday, but that area is definitely getting pretty active. All right. Now, notice this is the pattern, right? This is more than likely recon flights, but just see how they fly down into, looks to be Puerto Rico, down to Caracas, etc., but all over the United States. Now, you look at the drone activity here. We'll start in the U.S. And again, southern border centric, right? Notice the flight runs right along, and then it jumps over the Gulf of America. And then up to the D.C. area, you see one going long route across the U.S. That's probably gathering stuff. It's not just a benign flight. All right, and then look at the border up here at Canada. Getting a lot more attention now that Trump's in office. They seem to be really doing more up there in that neck of the woods. Again, Q4s, Q9s. All right, and then you'll notice too, look at this back and forth over Bulgaria. Kind of interesting because they're probably, if I was a bet man looking at Serbia and Kosovo, et cetera, they're probably a little worried about that area because they aren't necessarily aligned with us. And then, of course, you can see off the coast of Israel. All right. Now, look at the R-135 traffic. We'll start off over in Okinawa. That looks like it transitioned up to Alaska. But you get over here to Europe and see how they go all the way up to the top around the horn there, right? This little area where my mouse is right there, that's Russia. So right off the coast of Russia, this is SIG-Intel, so signal intelligence is what they're gathering. Right up the heart of between Louisiana and Texas, probably looking, if I were a betting man, at DFW all the way up to Oklahoma City. Again, signal intelligence, looking across the border, looking at the cartels. And then this, do you see it's not the box like it was before? Notice that it's running a little different pattern. Yeah, they're looking at something. This kind of highlights that they're looking at maybe Denver into the mountains, like Billings, Montana, et cetera, up into the mountains. And then, of course, you'll see over the Dakotas and then a little bit over kind of headed towards Detroit and over Minnesota. All right. Okay, and then last, we're going to look at AWACS. And just notice it is very border-centric. So it runs down the left coast, all right, down towards the southern end. And then notice all of these points where they're popping out along the Texas-Arizona border, down into Corpus Christi, over Louisiana, towards so you see it almost like a little bowl shape there, all the way around the whole bottom lower flank, west to east. And then notice too, you got it here, kind of a pinch point there between the English Channel going into the North Sea. So they're probably looking at ship traffic if I was a betting man. And then you'll see it also right up here where you'll see the B-52 activity as of late. So this kind of gives you a lay of the land. We will now get into some of the news, and then we'll start kind of plugging holes in terms of some of the other data, just confirmation of sorts, okay? So one thing I did want to show you, we are going to talk more and more about Guantanamo Bay, but just notice the amount of activity that's out here in this general area between Puerto Rico, Haiti. This right here, this is an Eastern Airline asset. They bought it. It was Swift Air, but this one is out here running. Looks to be very close to Haiti. All right, Amerijet. The normal suspects that are always down in that region. So, okay. Now, let's take a look at what is going on in Trump today. It looks like we've got for the 25th in-town pool. We got press conference, and then we got the Oval Office. Not too much really to speak of, but I do want to point this out. Now, this has not been confirmed by anybody inside the White House, etc., but it is something to pay attention to because it doesn't and shouldn't shock us, right? But there is some information that came out that said that the Oval Office desk was removed after the discovery of listening devices. Now, did Sleepy Joe put one in there or have his cronies put it in? Was this an Obama thing that put it in there? Or was it already in there because they were listening to Sleepy Joe? And, of course, we know he was a puppet, right? So don't really have an answer to that quite yet, but we're going to keep eyes on it. You know, it's not the first time we've had leaks. In fact, from outside of the White House, I think in the 90s, you had Israel who was actually using a Stingray device trying to listen in to the Oval Office. But this goes all the way back. You've got it happening in Watergate, all the tapes that were released. And so it just goes to show you that conversations cannot be held without somebody trying to listen in, right? I show you every single day the SIG intelligence flights over our country and around the world. They're doing the same thing. Those are listening. They're signal intelligence. So they're gathering your cell conversations, your text messages, everything. So just pay attention to that, okay? We have what you would call overreach by a government, okay? All right, look at this. Bomb threat forces a plane to divert, and it was escorted by Italian Air Force. This was an American airline flight. If you didn't hear about it over the weekend, most of you probably did. But it was basically headed to New Delhi, India, and it had to turn around over Turkmenistan, all right? And so they said there was a bomb on board, 199 passengers, 15 crew members. And so kind of a scary thing. We'll go over here and take a look. The flight currently has left Rome, and you will see it has it's departed. So it rolled out of Rome this morning, and it is almost to its point. But, you know, anytime you start flying around in this general area, you always worry a little because we have aircraft that have been hit, as even over here in this region, by missile defense systems. So there is a lot of stuff that can take you out of the sky. Not really a pleasant place to fly, but you can see this thing is getting pretty close to its final destination. Now, let me do this. I'm going to back this one up because I do want to show you. We're going to hit this particular aircraft. Let me show the aircraft info. And what I want to grab is the flight that came back right here. You can see one was canceled. This one is the one that was diverted. So this was the original flight. It has since gone back. But I'm going to hit play mode on this because I just want to give you a general idea of how this thing went down and why this is a little bit kind of, I wouldn't want to be on this flight, honestly. You're almost across your destination. You've hit the Caspian Sea, and all of a sudden, you find out your plane is going another direction. You can feel the plane turning, and you're thinking, what is going on? The crew's not going to tell you we got a bomb on board, right? Or a bomb threat. And now you've got this super long flight all the way back. Why they went all the way to Rome is because, according to American Airlines, they have the facilities in place there to basically manage this. They also have bomb teams in Rome that can get on the airplane and really search it. That's what they did. But this aircraft, when it got into this region as it came into Italy, was escorted by the Italian Air Force. You can imagine looking out the window and seeing fighters on each wing would definitely make you realize that something is definitely up. But what I can imagine, that is a very long journey. This is hours to get from here back over to here. That's crazy to think that if you have a bomb threat on board that you're flying additional hours. I would be thinking, get this aircraft on ground, get the people off, and then figure it out from there. You want to take the flight crew and go fly it to Rome from that point? Knock yourself out. But passengers, you know, get them off. Get them off the plane. All right. Now, this happened too, and remember I said there's a lot of stuff happening over in Israel. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details, but when you start talking about bomb threats on airplanes, you start talking about all the other different things that are happening out there aviation-wise. Take a look at this. These are tourist buses, and they say Iran was believed to be behind the central Israel bus bombings. Yeah, Iran, of all places, right? The attack likely planned by Iran. Nobody was wounded, but a Hamas battalion links blast to jihad of victory or martyrdom. These buses are absolutely trashed. You can see what they look like. So, yeah, nobody was hurt. The devices went off prematurely. So, again, pretty crazy. All right. Okay, look at this. The TSA under Biden focused on speeding up checkpoints for illegal aliens without IDs and not national security. Check this out. This, you can't make it up. This is going to make your head hurt. This is insane. Absolutely insane. But this is why you got to get fresh boots in there. You got to clean house. You got to drain the swamp. All right. These are the documents that the Homeland Security would allow in lieu of ID to allow people into our country. Now, you let this sink in. A warrant for arrest of alien, a warrant of removal or deportation, order of removal on, this is absolutely crazy. A notice to appear. So all these things that have to do with the fact that this person is a criminal that is wanted, if they can just show them that this is them and it's a criminal wanted, they're going to let them in our country. They're not going to arrest them and deport them. They're going to allow that as proof of ID. Is that not crazy? Now, remember all the airports we've been showing these flights go in and out. We look at Omni, we look at Global X, et cetera. Look at this, Alexandria. That is a 72-hour holding facility, but the fact that this is part of the pilot program tells you that some of those flights coming into that region were not necessarily tied to the 72-hour holding facility. Austin, right? That's California East. And then you've got DFW area, right? And then, of course, Denver, Lauderdale, Houston, Miami, Monroe. Now, remember, Houston, they've got a huge city down there that is full. It's a migrant colony, all right? Which blows you away to think they could even do that. Of course, we got news on that as well. But look, Shreveport, Yuma, right? One that we know we've been watching in and out. Pretty nuts, all right? But thankfully, that whole system has been kiboshed, but it's just confirmation that this was exactly what was going on, that we were worried that was going on. So, all right, so we talked about Kash Patel being confirmed. And then, of course, this one, kind of I think out of left field. Really good. I think it's solid. This guy used to be part of the Secret Service, but now he's going to serve as the deputy director, all right, for the FBI. So he's working alongside Kash Patel. I feel like maybe the Gestapo No Mo. We got good, solid leadership here that will absolutely flush out the all of these criminals that are in there. Now, there are crazy things that have been reported with the FBI basically destroying hard drives and shredding evidence and all kinds of stuff. So this is going to be pretty crazy to see how this actually turns out. So, okay. And then look at this. You got deportation operations launched at Colony Ridge. So I was just talking about that. Colony Ridge is a location that's in Houston, and they have a mass amount of illegals in there. There's a lot of bad stuff. Cartels are in there, et cetera. It's a large actual city that is being basically, jumped on by the ICE and by Tom Homan and his crew. So fantastic that this is starting to happen. But it says here that Texas DPS troopers and special agents are assisting Homeland Security at this operation. So good stuff, right? Now, let's go over. I want to just show you what's been going on. First and foremost, when you talk about deportations, let's start with the C-130s. Big thing, the big takeaway here, I just want to note this stuff comes out of San Diego. This is the last 5 days, right? You can see it hitting Phoenix. You can see it hitting El Paso, right down there near Corpus Christi, near Houston. See this round in the horn? Look at the layers there. Those are C-130s going into Guantanamo Bay and then XPL Honduras. Now, there was talk recently that the XPL, like the folks that were being moved from Guantanamo Bay to Honduras, were basically just going from one prison to a next. being processed out of Gitmo. But there was talk that they were sending doctors down to Gitmo because they've got an outbreak of some sort. So we'll see what happens there. But XPL was something we used to look at probably 4 years ago. So that is a very interesting data point for us, the fact that they're moving them out to Honduras. Those prisons are brutal. And you may remember we reported the fact that they were saying that basically they were willing to basically put our people, even U.S. citizens, into prisons down there in Central America, which would be absolutely brutal. So, okay, get my train of thought back here. Now, this was, we showed you the C-130s going in. Take a look at this. Colombia. We've been watching the government of Colombia down in South America come into the United States, and I said, well, this is kind of weird. It lands in New Orleans, but then we see these flights right here. Right? And you got this one. And I go, what is going on over Michigan that the government of Colombia be flying their military aircraft? So the more I think about it, I think they go there for maintenance. I think this is a third-party maintenance facility that what you saw on that would have been a check ride, right? So they're up there doing checkout, probably after heavy maintenance, etc. But this is where I think they were headed, or at least flying out of. That's Battle Creek, Michigan. There's an MRO up there, and so it's Duncan Aviation. It's 540,000 square feet of facility, and they work on all kinds of the smaller general aviation stuff. Nothing really like 737s, etc., but mainly like Challengers, Citations, Gulfstreams, etc. So that is more than likely what's going on there, right? Battle Creek Executive Airport, and that they're just doing a check ride. So I think we've solved that mystery. Now, this is going to be Global X, last 5 days, and notice the flurry of activity out of Alexandria. Remember, I just showed you that Homeland Security was using CBP1 app to bring them in, but this looks like deportations. It looks like they're bringing them in from various cities into that location. Notice there are a lot of flights down to Caracas and then up here in the Northeast. But it looks like they're moving them around, maybe the system. And keep in mind, too, that there may be some college basketball teams flying around on some of this because these are charter aircraft. All right, but do notice a lot of border activity, okay? All right, moving on. What is going on with the delays? Now, this is, to me, it's raising a lot of questions. It's kind of twofold. One, maybe somebody's name is on this list that they didn't foresee or are trying to figure out how to navigate, okay? And when I say that, there have been rumors that Trump's name, as he's back here behind me, that his name is on this list. I don't know if that will actually be the case. We will find out, hopefully. But the fact that they have said that they were going to release JFK stuff, they were going to release the Epstein and the P. Diddy files for everyone to see immediately, and then all of a sudden it hits her desk and it sits for about a week. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to have to keep eyes on it because it is definitely suspect, okay? So we know there are a lot of bad people on here, and there's probably a lot of folks that don't want that release. But the fact Newsweek is talking about it tells me that it probably does have Trump's name on it, because Newsweek, they have always tried to protect these folks that are on any of these lists because that is how they roll, right? And so a lot of the mainstream media won't even talk about these lists coming out. So it's because most of them, I mean, they've got people they know that are on it. They don't want to basically shine light on their darkness. That's what we do. So nonetheless, this is pretty crazy, to say the least, that it is still kind of sitting on her desk waiting to see. But we will pray that this does come out. It may, usually that kind of stuff comes out on a Friday if the mainstream media is trying to control it. Now, this stuff for Trump may come out on like Monday or Tuesday. So let's see what happens. But they definitely need to get this out there because I think there are going to be a lot of people that get exposed on this one. All right, we talked about Guantanamo Bay. I'm just going to give you right now what's coming inbound today. Just notice United Airlines. It's just going to be Uber for your legal eagles out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station. All right, over on ForeFlight, from the NOTAM perspective, NOTAM means Notice to Airmen. Nothing really new. I see a lot of various boxes. exercise or operations happening. The usual stuff. Notice that the big one isn't, this is an unmanned drone stuff over Mar-a-Lago region, but notice that it has shrank back down to the smaller size. Trump may have been like, hey, oh man, you throwing shade at me because you give me this giant Joe Biden size ring? Don't need it. So let's see. Okay, now this is Biggs Army Airfield. The big thing on this one, just that I think we should have eyes on. One, you run a lot of intel flights out of there. Priority air transports coming in. Sun Country inbound from Minnesota. All right. Then you get over here to this side, and you'll just see that you've got them headed out to Dayton, Ohio, and then, of course, down to Fort Hood. All right. So pretty active. And then, of course, this would be a troop-related mover, maybe. It's Omni headed to Shannon, Ireland from there, coming in from Washington Dulles. So we'll see. They could also be taking Middle Easterners back, all right? Then you get over to Dover, looking for 747s leaving. Ramstein, and then you've got a couple Reach C-17s. A lot of Cessnas coming out of that place. We keep going, and we are sitting now. This is the Camber flights, Rota. So coming out of, let me back that up. All right. So this will be the departure location. Let me see. That's pretty close to Gibraltar, but I'm not seeing anything. There it is, coming back to the States. Okay. All right. Brits, that's Terceira Island. Now, I do think there's a prison location at Terceira as well. And looks like that one is, let me see. So one out of England and then one Terceira. But notice this one that is landing, looks like to be landing down into Constanta. It's on the descent. So you see that downward arrow, 33,000. So it is actually descending. But that's over the Black Sea. All right, Ramstein. Lots of rain over in Ramstein. Couple C-130s, Atlas Air 747 coming in from Dover. We go back down. Notice you do have a spar flight that is headed, actually headed over towards Terceira Island as well. Probably a fuel stop. But that's a blue and white dignitary. Have a Camber flight that's headed over to Turkey. A couple of Reach flights, a lot more C-130s. All right. B-52 flies close to the border of Russia and Belarus. This is kind of a cool one. Let me take you over here to the B-52 flight in question. As you will see, this is where it flew. Notice it runs right over Poland, right up the coastline of Russia, right? And then does a bunch of victory laps, right? That's St. Petersburg, Russia right there. So very, very close to Russia for B-52s to be flying around. So again, we continue to see them kind of doing this sort of thing with the B-52s. Now, let me go down. I'll show you the flight that comes through. This is kind of fascinating, but check this out. This, with the fighter escort, you imagine? That's pretty low altitude to see that just kind of buzz right on over. Yeah, quite the sight. So we're watching what's happening over there. Remember, there are peace deals being negotiated between Ukraine and Russia, and the United States is brokering it. But what's happening in terms of the news, and what's NATO doing? Okay, you may remember you just had Macron show up to the White House just a couple days ago, right? What was he there for? What was going on? What's he trying to get Trump to bite on? Okay, Europe is working on plans to send 30,000 troops directly into Ukraine as Trump talks drawdown. So the U.S. is talking about pulling out, which is good, while NATO is acting about, all in, going all in. So kind of crazy to think that they would do that, but 30,000 is really just not much. That's kind of a small amount. And then Finland, they want to up defense in face of the Russian threat. So as we're talking about Russia basically saying, we may be able to broker this peace deal with Ukraine, you got NATO that's kind of pushing the other direction. So this is going to be really interesting. If the U.S. backs out of NATO, they are going to be in a very bad spot because they are nothing without the United States. There's no way they can take on Russia in Europe, all right, or England for that matter, all right. And then here you can see this is a little defense system, air defense system, not missile, but that's shooting not missiles, but rounds downrange. Sweden, Ireland announced air defense systems for Ukraine. So they're saying here the Sweden defense package includes the RBS 70NG and the Trident Mk2 air defense systems worth 1.2 billion Swedish kroner. So it's 113 million US, but it looks like they are actually trying to, get things into position with Trump trying to negotiate peace. Just like I said, I feel like everybody is tugging on the rope in their own direction, right? What's that? Trump dancing? Okay. All right. Zelensky signals he will resign if it brings war to an end and puts Ukraine in NATO. Little man is dreaming. You may remember the reason why Ukraine cannot get into NATO is because they are the number one, besides the United States, corrupt country in the world. So they're like 1.1. We're 1.0. All right. But Zelensky signals that he's going to resign. Give me a break. Dude, you're not going to make it through the election cycle. You're not well liked by most Ukrainians. And I think they're ready to see somebody else come into office. But if he thinks that his resignation is going to bring them into NATO, he's really not in touch with reality. So we will keep on. All right. This is what the board looks like going into RZE Poland. That's a forward operating base close to Ukraine. Just notice you've got NATO is inbound. The Brits are inbound. Go down a little further. The Swedish armed forces are inbound. So this is probably where all these headlines are coming from. And then, of course, you've got a base commander coming out of Wiesbaden, Germany. And it looks like he's headed to Constanta from there. But, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of big 747s rolling in. I'm not seeing a lot of U.S. stuff coming in. So that may be a good sign if there was a shot at peace. But we will wait and see what happens. But we're going to keep an eye on Israel because that certainly has the potential to go hot, more so than anything, I think, else at this time. And then, of course, we're going to be watching what happens with the list. Do they get released? What happens with the JFK files? Why the delay? All right. That's the big golden question. All right. That's it. You guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. We'll see you soon. God bless. Monkey out. Artisan handcrafted soaps. Get yours in the Monkey Werx shop today.